onto the Navamsa Deities. The Navamsa Deities are surprising what they are. At least it was to me. They're either Deva, which are the living beings that live in the heavens, Nri, which are the humans that live on earth, or the Rakshasas, which are sort of the, subhuman demonic beings that are considered to live inside the earth, in the netherlands of the earth. So these are the three races that encompass the events that happen in Hindu mythology. There are also the three races that encompass the events that happen in Norse mythology and Greek mythology. The Devas are similar to the gods of Greece and Norse mythology, to Odin and Jupiter and Freya and, all those people. The Rakshasas are similar to the Titans of Greek mythology or the giants of Norse mythology. So these are the three races, the two mythical races of Devas and Rakshasas, and the race of man, which is Nri. Now, the Devas are thought to live in the heavens. The Rakshasas are thought to live in the netherlands, which are considered to be on the interior of the earth, according to Hindu mythology. And these are the three conscious, self-motivated races. Devas are immortal, for all practical purposes. Rakshasas are not immortal, but they have all kinds of both earthly and magical powers. While, of course, Devas have heavenly powers. And man is neither immortal, nor is he have any special powers, other than sheer will and effort. Okay? And these are the deities of the Navamsas. Okay? And you think about that. Why these guys? You could try to, you'd think it'd be something more profound. But like all things in astrology, it is profound. We just have to understand it. But they're not the most colorful deities. We would think something like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva or someone being the deities of the Navamsas. But it's not. Before we get into these deities and what they represent, let's see how we calculate them. It's very easy. The first Navamsa of any sign is a Deva. The second Navamsa of any sign is Nri. And the third Navamsa of any sign is a Rakshasa. Then it starts again. The fourth Navamsa is therefore Deva. The fifth is Nri. The sixth is Rakshasa. The seventh is Deva. The eighth is Nri. And the ninth is Rakshasa. So the first, fourth, and seventh Navamsas are Devas. The second, fifth, and eighth Navamsas of any sign are Nri or human. And the third, sixth, and ninth Navamsas of any sign are Rakshasas. To see this easily, the first, fourth, and seventh Navamsas of any sign are always going to be movable signs. So they're going to be movable in the Navamsa. So if your planet falls in Aries, Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, then it's going to be a Deva Navamsa. If it falls in a fixed Navamsa, therefore a Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, it'll be a Nri Navamsa or human Navamsa. And if it falls in a dual Navamsa, the Gemini, Virgo, Sag, or Pisces, then it's going to be a Rakshasa Navamsa. Okay? Now, in the Sutra, when Parashara tells us how to calculate this, and it's the only book that does, no other text does, he says, and Deva, Nri, and Rakshasa in order of the movable and other signs. Okay? So Deva, Nri, and Rakshasa in the order of the movable and other signs. So no matter what sign we're starting, it's Deva, Nri, Rakshasa. Now, the commentators to the translation of Parashara say otherwise, though. Like if you get a translation and you see what the translator says if it's a movable sign, the first is Deva, then Nri, then Rakshasa, and that repeats twice more. If it's a fixed sign, it starts at Nri, then goes Rakshasa, and then goes Deva. And it's a dual sign, it starts at Rakshasa and goes Deva and Nri. But that doesn't seem to be what Parashara says. There's also an astrologer who wrote a book on Varga Vargas. Gosh, I don't remember who that was. He was the guy who came to the U.S. a few times and, taught in India. He's based in Delhi, I believe. He's not super famous, but, he's done some good, decent work. And he calculates that, he doesn't actually use these in examples, but in his book, when he calculates them where the first is, no matter what the sign, it's the first is Deva, the second is Nri, and the third is Rakshasa. So I'm not sure where these translators of Parashara, the translations we have available, came up with this different arrangement of changing the order depending on the sign it is. Okay, I tested both. I had better luck with simply using this method. If it's the first, fourth, or seventh in any sign, which means it's in a movable Navamsa, it's Deva. The second, fifth, and eighth Navamsas, which means it's a fixed sign in the Navamsa, is Nri. And the third, sixth, and ninth Navamsas, which means they're a dual sign in the Navamsa, are the Rakshasas. And I've had better luck with that than I did otherwise. Okay? So, what do these Navamsa deities represent? Well, they're the conscious living beings. Okay? The Devas are the immortals in heaven, and the humans that live on earth, and the Rakshasas that live beneath the earth. Most people who try to use this say, well, Deva Navamsas are great, and human Navamsas are okay, and Rakshasa Navamsas are bad. But that's just a really unimaginative, narrow way of looking at it. We have to look at what's really happening. We're dealing with planet Earth. And on planet Earth, when Devas come to planet Earth, they're not happy. Okay? Rarely. In fact, in mythology, when a Deva gets incarnated on Earth, it's almost invariably the result of them being cursed. So it's almost like a punishment to have a planet in Deva, Navamsa of anything. That means that planet is Deva, and it's on planet Earth, which sucks for Devas. Okay? So don't make it such a simplistic interpretation that Deva is good, man is okay, and Rakshasa is bad. We're dealing with Earth. And on Earth, there's only one thing that, the masters of Earth are man. So in one sense, the easiest thing is to be having planets in Nri or human Navamsas. Well, we'll talk about exactly what's worked the nicest, but basically, what do these represent? We know these are the different races, but what do those races represent? Well, they represent the community, right? The Deva community, the human community, or the demonic or Rakshasa community. And now how we talked about the Navamsa has to do with the community we decide to live in. Whether it's a marriage community, an ashram community, the brahmachari community, the bala ashram, the community of being educated as a youth. That's the largest part of our community is that ashram. The ashram is the community we live in. So these are three very distinct communities. Okay? All being forced to live on Earth, with man being the only one that naturally lives on Earth. So, all other factors equal, Deva and Rakshasas can suffer more than the Nri Navamsas. All other factors equal, which they never are. Okay? But don't assume Devas to be better just because they're Devas. Okay? So, what these three races represent is the community or the path that we believe in and that we follow. And it gives a color, it gives a flavor to the path that the person's on. Are they on a Deva path, a Nri path, or a Rakshasa path? Okay? It's the way we consciously live our lives, on a Deva path, Nri path, or Rakshasa path. Devas live on a path of wanting to do something unique and good and new, to give something new to humanity. That's the goal of Devas. Sure, a Deva gets cursed to live on Earth, and so it's not very nice for him. But while on Earth, he still does miracles, right? Okay, that's what Devas do. They want to create a miracle. They're on the path of doing something special, unique, something better, to create something new, to find the cure for cancer, whatever. Okay? To develop a new way of growing crops, to give something to the world that's heaven sent, basically. That's the path the Devas are on. They believe in something that allows them to do that. Okay? Now, and they want to bring that thing to earth, and they give it to man. The way the Devas, the gods, give things to man, and man takes it and runs with it. That's the Deva path. The human path, they're the builders and the sustainers. The builders, the humans, they take what they can get. They see the possibilities of it, and they build things around it. They build organizations. They build big bank accounts. They build big communities. They build cities. They build hospitals. So the Deva might be the scientist, the little awkward scientist who doesn't fit into the world, who creates this new antivirus that cures AIDS, that kills any virus in your system. But it's going to be the Nri, the human, who takes that antivirus and sells it to the public and creates hospitals that are free, that people can come and get inoculated and cured and all this stuff. It's the human that's going to do that. The human path is the path of the builder. And you're going to find the most productive Navamsas are these. This is a path of productivity. The Deva is a path of bringing something new. Okay? Now, Rakshasas, one thing with the Devas, lots of times the Devas don't quite fit into the world. They have a hard time living here. They're cursed to live here. Those planets don't feel at home in the world, which means the conditions they operate in, the things they operate in, aren't going to be exactly how they think they should be. And as a result of that, they can bring something some ingenuity to that field or that place, and therefore give a blessing to the earth, give something better. But the humans will run with it and build with it and know how to manage it and make the most of it and make it productive. The Rakshasas, they can live in the world, but they just don't really believe in doing it. So they can live in the conforms of their society and culture, but events in life will always make them feel like this is not what's there for them. And they're going to go on their own tangents, and they're going to break tradition. And that's why they're the demons. The Rakshasas are the destroyers of cultural tradition. Okay? In ancient India, if someone came up and started preaching something different, they would be looked upon as a Rakshasa practically. Okay? They're the breakers of tradition. Planets in Rakshasa Navamsas, they're going to break tradition. They're not going to follow the boundaries of their predecessors. They're not going to see the reason for it, or some cherished desire will cause them to have to break tradition in order to do that. Like an Indian person marrying a Western person is going to have a lot of Rakshasa things in their Navamsas. So they have to take a path of breaking tradition away from the arranged cultural marriage into a marriage with a foreigner. Okay? And that would be a Rakshasa path. So simply the path of bringing something new into earth, the path of building and producing, or the path of breaking tradition and breaking boundaries. Okay, those are the three paths and what the three races represent and symbolize. Neither path is better or worse. Okay? Tradition needs to be broken down. Tradition can't be stagnant. Cultures are meant to grow and evolve. It's the Rakshasa Navamsa that sees the limitations of the current culture in a particular situation and has the wildness and bravery to break past that limitation, and eventually that creates the new culture. Okay? The Devas have an extra insight or extra something to give, the new way of seeing things. And so they create that new thing that the humans can run with. But neither one is good or bad. Whether a planet's good or bad doesn't depend if it's in Deva, human, or Rakshasa Navamsas. It depends on whether the planet is in a good Lajitadiya Avastha or not. If the planet's in a Deva Navamsa, and it's in a good Lajitadiya Avastha, that indicates a path of bringing something new in, of giving something new to the world, of creating something or coming up with an idea that gets embraced by the world. Okay, so they're giving something that's heavenly sent, something new, something that's better, that's embraced. And they're happy as a result. If the Deva Because they're on that path of bringing something new to the world, and they're successful with it, basically. If a planet's in the Deva Navamsa and in bad Lajitati Avashtas, though, it shows a person who can't live in the world, who's not grounded enough, who's all thinking out, his head's up in the clouds, but they can't do anything useful on Earth. That any ideas they come with are so wacky that they're useless, or nobody will understand them if they are good. You know what I mean? So the mad scientist who really is mad. A planet in a Deva Navamsa that's afflicted in bad Lajitati Avashta will leave the person feeling very ungrounded, very unsure about life on Earth, very much hating to do the things on Earth. Okay? Devas don't like doing a lot of the worldly things if it's afflicted. You know, a Deva kid with lots of Deva planets is not going to enjoy going to school. He's not going to feel happy at school. He's not going to feel happy playing with other kids. If his planets aren't good, Lajitati Avashtas, he'll come in with something wonderful and unique to give to the world. But if it's afflicted, he'll just be this lost soul traversing through life, and it'll prompt him into other escapes and drug addictions and all kinds of negative things, where the person just wants to escape, whether it's the 6-year-old kid who wants to play computer games, or they sit in front of the TV all the time, or somebody shooting up on heroin. So it can give that sense of just totally being lost. It's like a Deva who's cursed to be on Earth and really, really suffer. Then there's the Devas who are meant to be on Earth. They still come as a curse, but they're cursed in order to do something good on Earth. Like Lord Rama was cursed to live on Earth, but he did great things. Okay? So it's the Lajitati Avashta that matters. Nri, or human Navamsa planet, that's in good Lajitati Avashtas, is really productive. The planet's productive, they build with it, they grow with it, and they enjoy the fruits of their labors. That's what humans want to do. They want to build, produce, enjoy, and share the fruits of their labors with their loved ones. A planet in a good Lajitati Avashta will do that. These are the people who build the institutions. Okay? Then there's the Rakshasa. If the human Navamsa planet's in a bad Lajitati Avashta, then that shows the inability to produce what one wants, frustration in accomplishing their highest potential. Knowing they have the ability to build it, they got the knowledge, they got the tools, but unable to get it out there. Frustration sets in. And the inability to gain and benefit from what they've done in the world. So a frustrated human path, the guy who works himself to death and has nothing at the end of the day. Or who works himself to death and is still not appreciated. Or a person who gives up on working because they're just so frustrated with life. So they just, even though they have the ability to build, they just decide to be a grumpy old man, cranky old person somewhere. That's a bad human Navamsa. Then the Rakshasa Navamsas are always going to prompt a person to do something different in life. They're going to break free from the status quo. If the planet's in a good Lajitati Avashta, they will go and do the rebellious thing, do the anti-cultural thing, do something that's 180 degrees from their culture's perspective, what's right, and have a happy ending. So a woman who marries a foreigner, a traditional family woman who marries a foreigner, leaves her country and finds out she has a wonderful, happy life in her new country, even though she broke the traditional boundaries. That's a good Navamsa, okay? Or a person who breaks free from their religion to embrace another religion with good results, okay? A bad Rakshasa Navamsa, a bad Lajitati planet, is a person who rebels against tradition just for the sheer sake of it, not because they're really doing anything real. So, and when they do break free from it, they find themselves in negative situations and unhappy life. So in this case, it would be the Indian girl, for example, who marries a foreigner, and her husband ends up cheating on her the week after marriage, and all the fears that their family had for them about how terrible that American is to marry come true. Or someone who's just a rebel without a cause, who just is not going to conform just because they want to be a troublemaker. So they're on a Rakshasa path that's full of frustration and negativity. So either path can be great. It's just the type of path, the flavor of the path, how they're going to walk that path. Do they walk as a Deva, bringing in new things, communicating new things? Do they walk as a builder who takes things and builds it? Or do they walk, against tradition and march into a new level of happiness? Okay? That's what these three paths are sort of representing. And we don't want to be judgmental about one path being better than the other. A good way to get a flavor of these paths is I looked up some charts of some yogis. Paramahansa Yogananda, who was the earliest guru to build a huge institution, has predominant of Nri, or human, Navamshas. So he builds this huge worldwide institution. And was he the first person to bring yoga to the West? No, he wasn't. Okay? But he's the first one to really build a serious institution. This huge kind of institution based on yoga. One of the first, to really build an institution that's still growing and developing today. Vivekananda was the first person, amongst the very first, to come west. And teach yoga to Westerners in a big way. He didn't build the level of institution that Yogananda did. He didn't have human Navamshas. He wasn't an organizer. Yogananda was an organizer. He bought property, he made business deals, he figured out ways to get money to pay for his organization. He was an organizer. He had human Navamshas. He walked the path of an organizer. He didn't like it, but that was his path, so he had to embrace it, right? Vivekananda, who broke from the Indian tradition of keeping yoga inside India, came west, came to the United States in the late 1800s, bringing yoga to the West in a big way, where they broke the tradition of keeping yoga and Hindu philosophy just for the people born in India. There's still a lot of people who believe that meditating only works if you live in India. Some people believe that if you have to be in India to meditate. It doesn't work in other countries. Vivekananda said, I don't think so. He was a Rakshasa path. He broke from tradition. And of course he got some flack from the very orthodox. He's going to teach these heathens, our divine science, So he was a Rakshasa, and he broke into that stuff. But Yogananda was the organizer. A guru who's had predominance of Deva Navamshas, and just emulates this ideal perfectly, was Anandamori Ma. Anandamori Ma was just lost. She was just totally lost on earth. She couldn't even feed herself. She was just such a Deva, just totally out of touch with everything physical. Such an eccentric being that without her husband feeding her, she would have starved to death. He had to put food in her mouth. She was a Deva, but she brought a beauty and love and light to the world that the humans had to follow, that the humans had to be around. So she had a huge following. But was she an organizer? No. Was she a builder like Yogananda? No. She was on this path of bringing beauty and perfection onto earth. And she herself was not even in touch with anything in earth. And you'll find that quality when there's a predominance of Deva Navamshas. These people are lost on earth. There's this either this ethereal or lost quality about them, or there's eccentricity that they just don't fit into the worldly way of living. They aren't good at doing mechanical things usually. They're not good at worldly things. But then they can bring some divine inspiration or divine knowledge or divine idea onto earth when it's time. So these three gurus really kind of revealed the Deva, human, and Rakshasa paths. Three great gurus. Three of the greatest gurus to have existed and changed the world. All who did it in very different ways, along different lines. Okay? As an organizer, as someone who broke from the orthodox tradition of keeping yoga for the Hindus, to the divine soul lost on earth who was Anandamori Ma. Okay? And who's just, it wasn't because of her promotions, advertisements, building institution, collecting money that she was successful. She just had that spark of inspiration. She was a Deva on earth, and that's all it was for her. But she doesn't have the institution of Yogananda. She doesn't have books and lessons and temples cropping up all over and a huge chain of of students and brahmachari. She doesn't have that huge organization. She has some created by her devotees, but she just lived the life. She was just a deva by example. So these are sort of the three paths that you can see. So look at your chart. What do you have more? What's your path? Is it a path of the person who's going to break the traditions and do something better, hopefully? Are you a builder and producer who's going to build something that's lasting and be productive? Or are you the deva that maybe just has one spark of wonder to give to the world, and you're never going to feel like you really belonged here in the first place? Okay? And you'll really quickly, after looking at some charts, you'll get a good feel for this. But remember, whether it's good or bad depends on the Lajitadi Avashta. Any of these can be a great life, and any of these can have a terrible path. Depends on that Lajitadi Avashta. Okay? So start looking at some charts. We, of course, will look at examples when we get to looking at examples, and constantly look at these Deva, Nri, and Rakshasa